I'm Sterling Fox. Joining me in studio from the law firm Murphy Batista LLP here in Vancouver, lawyers Joe Murphy and Scott Stanley. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good morning, Sterling.
Good to see you again. Joe, tell us a little bit about Murphy Batista and yourself before we talk about personal injury law and ICBC claims and all of that sort of thing. You've been around the business now for 30-odd years.
Sterling, the firm was established in early 1982. It was Joe Batista and I and two secretaries. We rented a little bit of space in a law firm and focused. Our business is client-focused, so if we do a really good job for the client, we think that's the way it should be. And as a result of that, and without any TV advertising, yellow pages, anything like that, we've grown to 12 lawyers and about 45 support staff, and we have a full floor at one of the big towers downtown. So it's the old-fashioned advertising, do a good job, and the business will come.
That's right. And testimonials, I suppose, would be the most effective form of advertising. There's no ad budget in the world that can buy a legitimate, rock-solid testimonial, and clearly you've got just a few of those. Well, the website is a good place to go and look at the firm and some of the people who have been well served by the firm. And the website, by the way, friends, is murphybatista.com. Batista with two T's, BATTISTA.com. Now, Scott Stanley, you're an interesting fellow because you started working for the opposition before you crossed over and went to work for Murphy Batista after being recruited by Joe. So out of law school, you went to work for the insurance companies.
Didn't know any better. I just needed a job. I wanted to get married. I met a nice gal. I needed a job to pay some bills, and that's where I ended up, on that side of the fence. Mm-hmm. It's not something anyone plans, but I saw the light eventually.
But it's a great way to learn the game.
Fabulous way to learn.
And Joe, you recruited Scott after you and some of your colleagues had squared off against him over some cases.
Yes. I had a few cases with Scott, not any trials with him. But after meeting with him and spending some time talking to him, I just thought he was an ideal person to adopt our philosophy of it's all about the client. It's client-based.
I should also mention to our listeners, guys, that even though your firm has offices here in Vancouver at Granville in Georgia, right downtown, there are a significant number of your clients who are not Vancouver people. You act for clients literally all over the province of British Columbia, correct?
All over the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just finished a case for a woman from Perth, Australia, which is the most remote big city in the world. I've had clients in the United States, other provinces, from Europe, and these are people usually who come to BC and are injured here. I also do some cases in Alberta, and I've done some work across Canada.
Now, Scott, we've determined in our first meeting a few weeks ago that in terms of a firm that specializes in the practice of personal injury law and insurance law, about 70% of all of your activities is centered around, in some way, ICBC and traffic accidents and the injuries that result from those, right?
Yeah, that's the right percentage. The other 30% would be made up of medical malpractice cases, insurance cases, people where they get hurt in a variety of ways, recreational accidents, slip and falls, assaults by police officers. But you're right, 70% of it is ICBC case.
And Joe, you used a phrase last time we met that made a lot of sense to me, because I came to the table, to the conversation, expecting that there would be a lot of anger on the part of people who have been banged up in traffic accidents and feel, well, beset upon and not well treated by the insurance companies involved. And most of the presiding the emotion would be anger. And you said, there's some anger, to be sure. Frustration and anger definitely in the equation. But it's mostly about getting your life back. That's what most people want. Bottom line, I want my life back.
Yeah, Sterling, the reality is when people are badly injured, when they can't work, when they can't do things in the home, with the family, with the friends, their whole world has changed. And they want that world back. They're not after money. They're after getting their life back. And our job is to help facilitate getting that life back and at the same time to recover damages that are going to fairly pay them for all that they've lost. But the reality is, and the biggest case I've done is $8 million, The client in that case would have in a moment given that money back had she been given her life back, her health back.
Right.
And that was a young girl with a terrible brain injury. Very, very tragic case. But $8 million was enough to take care of her.
Right.
But as I say, she would have given it back in a moment.
Well, isn't that something? And that's the other side of the equation. You know, we see these headlines, Scott, in the paper, settlement in the mega millions, and there's a description of the case and the award. But, you know, what we don't consider in many cases is that the person receiving this significant settlement is not going to enjoy the money as perhaps some of the rest of us would, because their life has been altered permanently.
Yeah, I've given clients big checks, and it's one of the saddest days when you hand over that big check when the case is over, because it means your life is ruined. I mean, I've actually had clients with spinal cord injuries, and I've watched them take their first steps after injury. They're far more buzzed by that than they are getting a big check. Mm-hmm. And it's actually one of the cool things about the work we do is you get to see, well, we see our clients often right after the accident, and then we get to see them walk. We get to see them talk again for the first time. It's very interesting. It's very rewarding.
Joe, one of the strategies that, again, and I'm speaking from a layman's perspective here, but typically you get the impression that when you, the private individual, take on a monolith like ICBC, they're going to do everything in their power to see that you lose. And one of the most basic of strategies is delay. You don't have all the money in the world. You can't afford a team of lawyers on retainer indefinitely. They can. They've got them on staff. They can get a delay, and it costs you to go to court and get delayed, and they'll do it as many times as possible, attempting to drain you both emotionally and at the bank. Is that a myth, or is that a reality?
That's a reality, and the good news is the court system levels the playing field. Oh. And what we do in most cases is we get the lawsuit started early on, and we get a trial date set. And the reality is either there's a fair settlement reached before trial, or you go to court and you let a judge or jury decide that. And that takes most of ICBC's power that they have over most individuals away.
Scott, what percentage of cases, if I get banged up in a traffic accident and I'm going to sue somebody here, what percentage of those traffic accident cases involving personal injury actually go to trial versus those that are settled before any court situation?
Well, our stats are about 5 to 10% of our ICBC cases go to trial. Oh. And the industry average is much, much lower than that. The vast majority of these cases settle without going to trial. I mean, our cases go to trial because we take more complicated cases where there's a greater need to go to trial, mm-hmm. and we're willing to take cases to trial if the money's not right.
Okay, and I suppose if that's the case, and ICBC hears, it's Murphy Batista, then they're probably not going to want to be too anxious to go to trial, given your track record in court.
I don't know what they think. They know that we go to trial. They know when we go to trial, we win a lot more often than we lose.
Sure.
I think they have to be guided by that. They have to be. Well, when I was a defense lawyer, I know that firms that go to trial and have success going to trial get taken a lot more seriously. It's not even close.
Joe, I do commercials for a law firm in Toronto called Levinter and Levinter. And one of their lines that they use in their radio ads is, we will do our best to gain for our clients a quality of life and the dignity that they deserve. And we don't get paid unless we win. That's a big selling feature for this law firm in Toronto. Is that a standard across the board? Do people like you only get paid if you win?
Essentially, yes, because it's the money that comes from the recovery that allows these people to pay fees. The worse the accident, the worse the injury, the less they're able to pay out anything. If someone's unable to work, these people don't have any money, and they're at a real disadvantage. And we get hired on the basis that we will get paid at the end of the case, And we have cases, the longest case I did was 18 years. I was hired at the age of 2, and we finished at the age of 20. And that was a young girl, a wonderful young girl with a brain injury. And the reality is, until she was 20, we didn't know, and I didn't understand the impact of that brain injury.
Was it a brain injury? She was 2 when it occurred. Was
Yes.
it in a traffic accident?
Yes, it was.
Interesting. And it took 18 years to settle the case.
Well, I didn't know what was the effect of the brain injury until I waited for her to graduate from high school. And when she did, then I understood it. Because before then, you don't know. Children, particularly with brain injuries, can appear to function quite well when they're in the school setting.
Yeah.
And everything's organized and structured for them. But once they get out of school, the situation's different. And that was a girl who was on the honor roll throughout high school. And when she completed high school, it was a consensus among the experts that she maybe could work as a part-time cleaning lady, provided she went to the same homes every week. If she went to different homes, she couldn't
This
do
for
it.
an honor roll student.
Very bright girl, but who had lost her ability to organize.
So clearly
herself.
there's no statute of limitations on these sorts of legal cases then if you were able to resolve something 18 years after the fact. The courts were sympathetic.
The statute of limitations doesn't affect children. If you or I are injured in an accident, we have to start the lawsuit within 2 years of the accident.
Okay.
If a child's injured in an accident, they have to start the lawsuit within 2 years of them turning 19.
Oh.
So it's different. But in that case, we had the lawsuit started, but we simply adjourned the trial until we were at the end of the line and things could be recognized.
So we were talking about ICBC delays and being fairly standard practice, but in some cases it's expedient for the defense to delay in order to gain the time required to fully assess a case.
Well, the expression I used, Sterling, is the dust doesn't settle with a bad injury to a child until they become an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only then that you can understand how they will be affected as an adult. On the other hand, if we get elderly people injured in accidents, we will start the lawsuit immediately and set down the trial for as soon as possible. So I, some years ago, had an 87-year-old woman left a ventilator-dependent quadriplegic. Well, I think the lawsuit was started within a week of me getting hired,
Of course.
and we had a trial date within 12 months because we couldn't wait. She couldn't wait. And if she died, most of her claim died with her. As it turned out, she lived for about 4.5 years after the accident, but the judgment I got allowed her to have the funds needed, substantial funds needed, for her care every month. She needed full-time, round-the-clock nurses.
Right, of course.
So without us going to court and getting that award, the insurance company wasn't going to pay the $32,000 a month that she needed for her care.
Interesting. Scott, you were going to throw something in here too.
Well, one of the wrinkles with little kid claims is when people are injured in car accident claims, they've got 2 claims, one against the responsible driver, one against ICBC for paying benefits. And although the limitation for suing the responsible driver doesn't end until they're 21, the claim against ICBC has to be brought within 2 years.
Right, okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
No, I didn't, yeah.
And those claims are gone forever usually with a lot of kids unless they get counsel right away.
All the more reason, gentlemen, when you're involved in a traffic accident, particularly one that involves some measure, some degree of personal injury, even though you may not hire a lawyer, it's certainly just plain smart to speak to a lawyer and find out where you stand. Correct?
That's absolutely correct.
All right. 2 lawyers in studio, friends. Joe Murphy and Scott Stanley from Murphy Batista, LLP here in Vancouver. You're listening to You and the Law on AM 650, and we'll be right back.